So welcome everyone to today's webinar. We have Pat Kennedy with us here today from eConcepts or eTownz. And he's going to be talking to us about his company's approach to smart community management and how it can help build resilient communities. One of the projects that eTownz have been working on for a number of years is the development of a framework for smart local development. And that's what Pat is going to talk about with us today. So over to you, Pat. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Emma, and thanks for the opportunity to explain what we're doing. So just to let you know, after the call, Emma's going to send around this presentation, but she'll also send around just two things I want to show you before we start. It's simply a two-page brochure on what on our framework, but also I'll speak about it in a moment. But we have a thematic framework for community development with 4 items in the middle. There's 17 on the outside, I think, and there's about 70 on the third tier. But she'll send this all to you, so you'll be able to dig into it yourself and just see what's there. So I'll just go back to the presentation now. So my presentation is in kind of 4 segments. As people who know me, I tend to talk very quickly, so I'll try and keep it slow, but also clear. But I will generally give a little summary about myself and our company, a little bit about the framework and how it came about, and then details of the structure of this framework, so it's kind of an engineering approach to community development, and then how this is implemented, or how we've kind of tried to implement this in some communities. So as I say, my background is in engineering. I studied engineering out in UCD, and then after a while backed it up with higher diploma in social science. So it's kind of an odd combination in some respects. I spent 10 years as a consulting engineer, mainly working in energy and environmental services area. But my passion really was digital services for development. International development. I originally came across EWB through the Where There Is No Engineer competition, and I set up eTownz a little shy of 10 years ago, and it also trades as eConcepts. We're based down here in Dublin 1, down in the Docklands. And I say we trade under 2 names. There's one company with 2 names. So eConcepts, we're essentially guns for hire. We build websites, we do a lot of data visualization work, business process automation stuff. And then eTownz is a kind of fully owned entity that's ours as well, which we've been working on for quite some time. And we are rolling out some stuff with that. We have done an awful lot of research over the past 8 to 10 years, done a lot of work with NUIG originally, creating the framework. At the moment, a lot of work with UL, and obviously a lot of work with EWB and other partners as well. So just to give a bit of a background on what we try to achieve. So we were looking at the idea of digitizing, streamlining community development processes. And when we done a lot of analysis of the community sector, and we realized that things generally work in silos. Communities can do brilliant stuff, but do it in silos, and there's perhaps a lack of coordination in that piece. And in order to digitize, there was a need to get frameworks developed. We thought that was going to be an easy process. We thought we'd take one off the shelf, but we didn't really find anything that we thought was comprehensive enough. And we wanted a framework that would work for all communities, so be it rural or be it urban, and could move it up and down levels, so at a local level or regional or potentially national. So that's where we came about. One of the benefits here, as we say, is to facilitate local communities in the co-creation and implementation of their evidence-based community development plans. So co-creation is a key part. So everyone in the community gets to put in their ideas, and we can rank them. We're very much interested in the idea of bringing together the planning process, which can generally be looking into the future, and the management process, which we kind of generally say is the day-to-day workings, and merge them to areas of local development. And obviously have an evidence base. So use examples from other places, use data where we can, to really make the best decisions on what step we should take next. A couple of quick benefits. It helps bring the community around to this shared local vision. So similar people can come together to, or people with similar interests can come together to achieve their goals. often it streamlines local administration. So assigning tasks, getting people to do things can sometimes be a huge job in itself. So it helps that coordination piece. It helps the cross-community coordination. So what we regularly find is you'll have a fantastic ICA club, a fantastic GA club, and a fantastic golf club, but they very rarely work together properly, and the need for better collaboration there. I say it creates a common framework, so basically people can look at they can look at cycling in the same framework they might look at mental health in their community. And also a big part of our of the framework is actually understanding the past and the present. So what projects have worked in the past, what assets are in place that can be leveraged to make a better future. So I will just get into a little bit more detail about how this framework is structured. So we started off the project maybe 8 years ago, a research project with NUIG, whereby we reviewed about 150 odd community development plans that were mainly from Ireland, and they're obviously generally found to be quite long, 20 to 50 pages sometimes. They all mentioned this idea of should be updated regularly, but we didn't find there was evidence that much of that happening. And when we distilled them down and looked where things were comparable, we came up with kind of a few ideas around that. So one, we could basically divide, we could take nearly all components from these reports and categorize them in two ways, or categorize the information in them in two ways. One, it's the type of information in type, and the other is theme. And our idea was we essentially wanted to build a database of know-how and ideas for the community. So so I'll just go to so our first tag essentially, so when we're collecting information, is what record type is it? So we have 4 principal types here. So we're looking to create a register of the local stakeholders, and the stakeholders can be a local club or group, local public services, so it could be the library and the school, and could be the local businesses. We also want to create a register of the local projects, so past, present, planned and ideas, that's how we log them, and also the assets. So these are kind of the physical things within the community. So your football pitches, the basketball courts, and so forth, and tourist attractions perhaps. And the final thing we look to compile is a list of goals or challenges. That word is interchangeable kind of things, but what do the community want to achieve? So we realized we could tag all our information in these reports with some of these types. But in order to get a greater understanding and to be able to distill these reports out, we needed to develop a thematic structure. We looked long and hard at the Sustainable Development Goals, but we didn't think they really marry up with the language and the approach the communities take. So we developed a 3-tiered categorization system for community development themes. So I'll just give a bit of explanation. So basically, the top level has four elements to it. So it's this is a short version, but should be health, recreation, and well-being. This is environment and sustainability, business and economy, and this one is infrastructure and community management. So there are 4 top levels. So anytime we're say logging a stakeholder, be a school, that would also be logged against a relevant themes. So we have our top level themes here, and then you can see we have our tier 2 is what we call themes here. So we'll say under environment and sustainability, we've habitats, energy and climate change, waste and resources. So I won't go into this in a huge amount of detail, but you'll get it in the email that Emma will send. There's actually a third tier then of I think about 78, and they grow. So this is meant to be a framework that grows, and we would review periodically and update. But it'll get into the granularity things of not just arts, but looking at music and looking at visual arts and so forth, and likewise for the other thematic areas. So then this again gives us the structure, we been building technology to support that. The framework is designed to be standalone. We're giving it away for free. Anyone can employ it or use it what way they want, and we're looking to develop technology. So we're to facilitate that process. Now, it can also just equally be done with the Excel sheet. It's within a community. Our whole idea, though, is that we can build up these database of records, and tag them by theme and type, and then we can rearrange in whatever way we want to essentially output community plans. So if everything that's tagged with cycling, then that will create the cycling plans. A plan can be created for any of the thematic areas, and it allows that distillation. But it also does each record can be updated each year, or even every month, with new ideas, new comments, and so forth. So we're moving there from a planning process, which can be kind of rigid and long term, to something that's active and continually updated. So I say yes. The plan that we output is basically it's dated because it can be downloaded each time and be a separate version. But we're looking at the title, the summary, and we tag it by type and by thematic area, and that essentially builds your plan. The whole idea here is one, traditional plans start going obsolete the day they're printed, and with this now we have a system whereby they're updated on an ongoing basis, and we also want the idea of personalization of plans. So sometimes communities deliver one big plan, 50 pages, and this nowadays it's very hard to get people to try and digest all that. So now someone can go and decide, yes, I'm just interested in retail, I'm interested in sport, and I'm interested in mental health, and just get a distilled version with that information. And it's designed to be scannable, so you can quickly go down through it, see what you like, click into it, then add your comment and add more information, get involved. The other part then, so once we kind of the framework, as I say, developed, we've done some work on how we're going to give this as a program that communities can take ownership of themselves, and we developed just a parallel 12-month program which can be used on this framework. So basically, the idea is that you have a coordination team. So we're trying this with about 10 towns in Clare last year. I'm looking at 2 more at the moment, which kind of pulls the pieces together. And then each town decides how many action teams it wants. So we would generally encourage them to have an action team for each of the top level teams, and then have any number of sub-level teams. So basically people can decide, yeah, I want to be in that area and that area and that area. So we can build up this network, and people, a key part of what we're about is bringing together people with similar interests and complementary skills. So there's 5 people, and they're all interested in local education, but they might all come from different backgrounds and different skills. So, but those people can come together, they can actually instigate a lot of change. Then, so we have our teams created. Then each of the teams do their program for over 12 months. Some can be very active and work every week. Some might only decide to meet every quarter, but they follow 5 steps. So first they do their stakeholder review. So they identify what the stakeholders are, chat to them, see how things could be improved for them, and invite them into the fold also. The second thing they do is do a review of their assets. So again, look at what assets they have related. So it could be, I regularly use the cycling example, but it could be cycling stands, it could be a cycling shop, and so forth. And just look and see what assets are there, and do a review of them every year. So you can see that the first year's a lot of work, but afterwards it should be just updating and reviewing your plans. Then it's about defining the goals and metrics for your area. So the team will decide, right, what do we really want to achieve? What we really want to achieve, and how we're going to measure that. And we will suggest them with a database which they can of suggested goals and metrics and assets and stakeholders, which they can use to help in that process. Also, then they get their project register. So it's a list of projects that they've worked on the past few years, and also in active projects, but also this database of project ideas. So you put in a number of ideas, you can constantly add new ideas, and then people who are interested in that theme can see them and say, yeah, I want to get involved in that, or I'd be willing to help with that. And you start to bring together people, initiate projects based on what people are interested in. And our final step that we call here is the implementation in community huddles. So community huddles is just a way of saying essentially meetups. So that could be online or offline, but each team should decide how often they should meet. And we have kind of a 1 hour suggested program on how they could manage those huddles. So just kind of a summary on some of those benefits. It's modular, so that makes it kind of easier to understand for stakeholders and easy to divide up the information and present it in an appropriate manner. It allows the plans to be continually updated, which is really important these days. It stimulates local interest in development. So sometimes people might be interested in local development, but they stand on the outside. This is an inviting way whereby they're not just following a leader in the community, they can be the leaders in their community and bring together people with those similar interests. It provides a more comprehensive understanding of the local issues, and it fosters this idea of collaboration among individuals and groups in the community. I'm just conscious of time here. From a macro level then, or from a regional level then, so on the left-hand side, we kind of see the towns are kind of isolated, but when there's this thematic structure, then we can get food teams in different towns to collaborate, we can get retail teams and so forth to collaborate. So it provides a framework for that regional collaboration. It also has to standardize metrics. A big problem in the community development sector we have found is that different towns, different counties will measure things differently. And then there's no comparability. We can't see is one town better than the other, or where there are opportunities to improve things. So we're moving towards that idea of standardizing metrics. So that's the main summary of the framework. I'll just give a couple of slides on different things that we've been doing in that space. So one is the eTownz Knowledge Hub. This is essentially a database of sample assets, stakeholders, goals, projects, and metrics. There's thousands of project ideas in there and assets, but basically the idea is, as opposed to a new team forming, trying to figure out what would be an asset related to mental health in our community or related to social well-being. We provide them the list, and they can just go, yeah, we like that idea, or we have that asset, or we don't, we do, and look down through project ideas as well. Another thing we developed, which is called eTownz Community Development Dashboard. We developed a pilot version of that in the last 2 years and trialed it in Clare, as I mentioned. But now we're just about the next few weeks, we're going to be launching a new hand-coded version, which we're trialing in Clare Castle, with a view to rolling it out across the country later on in the year. And we'll be working then with local development companies and councils to roll out this platform to whoever might be interested. Also, kind of for those who might be interested in this, we have a little kind of a side entity called the Community Research Alliance. And you look at that communityresearchalliance.com, you'll see just a little information. And it's basically, it's a grouping together of the different organizations and people that we've worked with over the years. And it's basically just trying to charter how we can better provide structure to local development and develop research projects. So yeah, so again, a little bit of a summary on what's our benefits. It helps organize and encourage personal action and people getting involved in things. It helps the community as a whole work together, and regionally it helps to dot things together and bring together ideas and so forth. So that's my summary. I'm a little bit over time. If anyone wants to get in touch, my details are there, and as I say, Emma will be sending out the information after the call. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Pat. Do we have any questions, guys, from anyone there attending? Oh, I think we already have the first one, Q&A. Okay, so Tiernan, so I'll just try and unmute you there so you can chat to Pat yourself. Okay, Tiernan, you should be ready to talk in a moment.
He's muted there, yeah.
He just needs to, I've allowed him to talk now, so I think if you unmute yourself, Tiernan, you should be able. Or if not, I'll maybe read it out anyway. Yeah, okay, I'll read it out. Tiernan is saying, I love this model. I'm wondering if it has been used in any developing countries, particularly in challenging rebuilding projects that deal with poverty, natural and/or conflict disasters. Currently researching strategies and will be working in rural communities to assess their needs. I think this could help and will be interesting to compare to other models.
So has it been trialed in detail in developing countries? No. We have done a good bit of work, though. We've been working with EWB for many years now. So in particular, we've been looking at this model with respect to nature-based solutions for development. This platform, or the framework was originally designed, I'm very interested in international development, but it was originally designed for communities in Ireland. And then at one stage we decided, let's go do one for international development, and realize they are one and the same thing. Some of the project ideas might work in other countries, and likewise, some of the stuff in other countries wouldn't work here, but the exact same framework would work, and we'd be open to chatting to anyone who's interested in trialing it out, and we'll provide resources on the same.
Brilliant, thanks, Pat. We have one more from someone anonymous here, so I'll read it out. Does the model take account of Irish cross-border communities, example Lifford, Strabane?
Yep, so we have kind of a similar situation down in Clare, where there's towns on both sides of a county boundary, Ballina and Killaloe, and we work with them. It's agnostic of these boundaries, kind of thing is, but the beauty of it then is that both sides, both towns can get this profile, and we can mix the profiles to see what they have as a whole. So it can be very, very beneficial in that type of scenario, and because it's one format that will work everywhere, kind of thing is, that's the idea of it. So yes, it can do. I haven't a huge amount of case studies for that, but I do have one down in Killaloe, Ballina. Brilliant,
that's great. Possibly then, Pat, if you want to share that maybe, or include that for circulating afterwards, I can include that in email.
Yep.
Brilliant. We have one here from Declan, so I'll see if we unmute Declan there to ask himself. If you want to answer, Declan?
Yeah, how you doing? An extremely impressive platform. Obviously, a huge amount of work has gone into it. I was just wondering, has there been any interaction with, for example, Department of Rural and Community Development? Because I think it'd be a benefit, like, right across the country. Have they shown any interest, or has there been any conversation with them?
There's been minimal conversations. We do a lot of work, though, with the National Rural Network, Irish Rural Link, the Irish Local Development Network, kind of thing is, but it is a slow process. It's actually it's only since COVID, actually, we really got a lot of our stuff solidified ourselves. So it's actually the next few weeks and months that we're actually going to try to do that push thing a little bit more. And that's the reason we put, as you well know, Declan, we put an awful lot of work over the last 7 or 8 years into developing that framework, and we made the decision to start the year that we're just going to make it free, available, because it was never going to work in one group being proprietary on it. So the idea is that we'd be happy for local or if regional development organisations such as the councils, such as local development companies were to embrace this idea, we think there would be a lot more uniformity across how they work, and therefore how the communities work. The project we're on in Clarecastle at the moment, the guys down there absolutely love it. It's that structure that they want. It allows them to bring on people and not be scared. So yeah, we would hope in the next 12 months we would see a lot more places around Ireland and adopting this framework. And we're also working on a project called the EU Smart Villages Network, where we're working with 17 countries across Europe. And under this, so the smart communities, the smart villages is not our term. It's something we kind of actually strapped onto in the last few years. It's an EU kind of initiative and a world initiative on bringing more evidence-based approaches to local development. So we think this fits in quite nicely. So the answer to your question is there's been some talk, but hasn't been embraced in any great degree yet, but hopefully in the next 6 to 12 months.
Absolutely. And then if you can join the dots between, rather than having communities working on a really good system and then the planners and councils working on their own system. If you can join the dots between the two, it just opens it up to a whole different level.
Yeah. I often give the example, as you know, we were in Ljubljana last year, and we had about 4 different tables of engineers from Lithuania, or from Ljubljana, doing case studies on community development related nature-based solutions. But they were using 4 towns in West Clare, just because the data was clean, it's easy to use, and once it's clean and easy to use, it can be interpreted and used by lots of different types of people. So it could be educational people, it could be engineers, it could be planners, it could be community development people, but the data is clean and easy to manipulate. I gave a speech there last year, and I told a lot of people at a community development conference that PDF was the great problem, because so much really good information is locked up in paragraphs and long reports, and it's unusable in that format. If it can get to be into a more structured format, it can be used by lots of different people.
Absolutely. Thanks. Cheers.
Cheers, Declan.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, so we just have another one here. Have you looked at reaching out to SEAI, as this would align to works undertaken by the sustainable energy communities?
Yes, I met them there last year, and they liked what we're doing. Kind of thing is, and I'm an energy consultant for most of my work as an engineer was in the energy space. So I definitely have a keen eye on how this can be used for community and the SECs. So yes, my eye is on it, but I haven't really got a chance to really to dig into it and flesh it out. But definitely open to doing stuff on that. We have a few complementary community energy tools, but I won't confuse matters with that.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, absolutely. A great opportunity there for sure. Oh, one more come in, yeah. This one from Matthew. So Matthew, I'll try and mute him if he's able to talk. Okay, Matthew, if you want to ask your question there.
Hello.
Hi, Matthew.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether this model has been tested in an urban slum context. I'm calling from Africa, and these contexts are usually characterized by high population, lack of basic infrastructure, including internet or mobile money technologies, and low income population. Any ideas how this would work in such kind of a context?
Yep. So at the moment, it's a framework. We've tested, say, in 10 communities in rural Ireland at the moment. We haven't even tested in cities yet. Okay. We're fairly confident it will work though, because and we've built it with that in mind, that it'll work in all these contexts. And we just add more. So there could be assets or challenges that are in slums. We just add them to the overall list, and they're essentially an option. And also, we were very conscious of not making this a digital-only tool. So the idea was it's a framework that can just work on a piece of paper. People just got a piece of paper, we can work on that level. And if they want to go further, they can use an Excel model. If they want to go further, then they could use something like what we're developing. But we're hoping that we're developing something that could be used across lots of jurisdictions. And then there could be learnings from poor city areas in Africa to poor city areas in Europe, and vice versa, kind of thing, is if there's a common framework approach.
Okay.
Thanks for the question.
Great, thanks, Matthew. Don't think we had. Do we have any last questions there, guys, for Pat before we finish up? Don't see any more coming through at the moment. So Pat, okay. Huge thanks for joining us today. I'm delighted to have you here with us. So hopefully it's kind of started a conversation. I'll certainly share the information, guys, as Pat mentioned when I circulate the email with the link to today's recording. And I'm sure Pat will be very happy to, as I said, to answer any follow-up questions you have, or to have any conversations around that. So thanks very much for joining us today, guys. We'll be back next Wednesday, so at the same time, 1:30. And we have Owen Bracken and Dan Morgan from Farm Social joining us next week. It will be a pre-recording, but we'll still have a Q&A at the end. And they'll be discussing designing resilience and food security for subsistence farmers. So the guys have very interesting experience in their work at Farm Social. So that's, yeah, they'll be talking about that with us next week. So we look forward to hopefully having you join us then, and have a great afternoon or evening or wherever you are in the world joining us. And thanks again to Pat.
Thanks.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.